What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Last Call Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Paul Clement, along with my co-host, Bobby Briscoe, here on March 23rd. It's it's our first episode of the week, and I do apologize for not putting a second episode out last week. But truly, truth be told, not a lot to talk about. Don't want to break up our schedule too much, so was very happy just to punt it over to today and make sure Bobby was able to hop on and we could break down our episode this week. So, couple of news items, AFC East breakdown tonight, and before we get into any of that, I'd be remiss if I didn't let Bobby give himself a hello here. And you had a nice, relaxing March break, I understand.
Oh yes, very, very much so. Back to work today, back right into it, all of the hustle and bustle of the first day back. But the March break was really good, pretty relaxing. Got out skiing, got out to a golf simulator, got out on a brewery tour. So I'll share a little bit about that when we crack into our beers here. But a good
Yeah.
break overall.
Did you partake in St. Patrick's Day at all?
Not really. Had a little bit of a get together with some friends on that night and had a couple of pops, but nothing too crazy on my end for that.
Yeah. So, my high school buddy Eric Watchman, he has his birthday on St. Patrick's Day, which, as you might imagine, just leads to all sorts of chaos. But
Dangerous.
so we went to a golf simulator in the morning, hit a couple balls, a lot of fun with the group there. We went to a really nice steakhouse, La Castile. Shout out to them for lunch, which was awesome. By 1 p.m., I'm already ready for a nap, and then we end up heading over to our local Irish pub where we celebrated most of the afternoon. And but I ended up coming back home, and like Melissa came over to the pub at some point, so we were able to celebrate together, which was awesome. And then we left, and we got our PJs on, sweatpants on. We're watching a show, and my buddy messages me saying, "I'm coming to get you. We're going back out." I'm like, "Brother, brother, no,
we
brother,
we are
no."
not in our 20s anymore, man. That's
And mind you, this is a friend who has skipped on many a social occasion. He decides to hit me with a "Wow, you're not coming out." I'm like, "Man,
hey. Once the PJ mode is activated,
there's
there
no going back.
is
At our age, there's no going back.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're
you
you're,
would
t-
have to move heaven and earth to get me back out of the house at that point.
you're telling me to put jeans on at 9:30 p.m. after I'm already in my sweats?
Oh,
No, I'm
hell
sorry.
no.
I'm sorry, brother." Anyhow, so uh, we got a great episode, everybody. If you haven't liked and subscribed, and you don't like hearing our Irish celebration banter, then don't like and subscribe. But if you do like and subscribe, um, we've got a fantastic episode. We've got the latest news and then our AFC breakdown. Without further ado, let's get it cracking, Bobby. Let's last call. Boom. All right, everyone. So before we get into the news, we have to do our weekly beer check. Bobby, I'll kick it over to you. What are we sipping on tonight?
Ooh, we have something fun today from said brewery tour I mentioned earlier. So I have this is a called Neverwinter Spiced Winter Ale. We're in the last kind of week where these kinds of things are appropriate to be had. But this is from Gather Brewery and Glasswork in Merrickville, Ontario. It was the first stop on our brewery tour that we did last Friday. Really cool spot, as it says in the name. It's, I think, Ontario's only slash maybe Canada's only brewery slash glass blowing place. So pretty cool. Some really good food and a great selection of beers. So I'm sipping on this seasonal spiced winter ale here this evening. It's very, very
Excellent,
good.
excellent. And tonight I'm going to be sipping on my change up from Grolsch. I'm going with Sapporo. It's a very, I find, so many years ago when Grolsch was still not commercialized, you got the 50 centiliter, like 500 milliliter can of Grolsch for cheaper than what it is now, and it's down to 473. So when Moosehead bought Grolsch, it diminished the brand somewhat, I would
Mhm.
say. So every once in a while, when I want to not have to pick up a beer every like 20 minutes, I'll grab a Sapporo just because it gives me a couple extra sips, and it's so crisp and so clean that if I get into it, the hangovers are not so bad. So,
That's fair. That's fair. I
um,
would not want to get into too many of these because that would be quite dangerous. But um, different sipping experiences we have this evening.
certainly.
Well,
Okay,
very good.
so let's break through like the really like nitty gritty news, so that we can get to the big talking point, which broke last week. But the first thing that happened, or the first thing we'll talk about, is Philadelphia Eagles signing Hollywood Brown to be their quote unquote wide receiver three right now. And I do like this signing as a wide receiver three.
Mhm.
If Bobby, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're looking ahead at potentially losing an AJ Brown in a trade, by your own choosing, are you feeling confident about a Hollywood Brown and a Devontae Smith kind of wide receiver group?
Well, you still have a Brown, so on that front, you're good to go. You've got a spare Brown kicking around. No, I love this if this is their three. If they've got Brown, Smith, Brown, that is arguably one of the best wide receiver rooms that you are going to be seeing in the whole league. I don't know that it's looking like it's going that way. It sounds like AJ might be heading out of town. If that is the case, then I'm still happy with this. This is still a good move. This is still shoring up that wide receiver room. If there is a loss of AJ Brown, um, it's not a replacement for AJ Brown, but it'd be hard for us to find a full replacement for AJ Brown. That's a difficult ask. So I like the signing. I like it more if it is the signing and keeping AJ Brown, at least in terms of the team perspective. But it's certainly kind of to me foretells AJ Brown's out of town.
And I think it's if we can actually look ahead of like look ahead to the draft, look ahead to like second wave of free agency or whatever. I think it's I think you're right. It it fulfills a need now. Like whether or not they get rid of AJ Brown, they need that wide receiver three, which is traditionally not given them much of anything. Um, but I think if you look at the draft where the Eagles are drafting, which is 23rd, I think that's a prime spot for a Jordan Tyson if he ends up to continue to slip down draft boards, a Denzel Boston. So you can find that X receiver in the late round of the late first round if you wanted to replace AJ Brown cheaply, and if not, then uh, at least you still have that backstop in some form. I don't think you're signing Hollywood Brown to be your one or even your two. Like I think
No.
I think Howie is looking at the tea leaves, and from the news that I've seen is that there is potentially a deal already like signed and agreed to for post June 1st, where the Eagles might be sending him to the Patriots or whomever. So if that's the case, expect the Eagles to target one of these X receivers in the draft, and then you have your bona fide Zed in Devontae Smith, and Hollywood Brown mixes in three receiver sets is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and you're right to read the tea leaves here too. I've seen that story as well. So I don't quite understand how the money all shakes out. I'm not that good at the cap and
Only
contract
only the
stuff.
only the bean counters know that stuff, man.
Yeah, it's beyond me. I can handle doing that for hockey, but I can handle it for one sport, not any more than that.
100%.
But yeah, I guess after June 1st, the money becomes workable for a trade. And prior to that, it's not workable. So, yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if we see the Eagles go after another wide receiver, either in the draft or you trade with free agency, or however you get another body into that room, and then AJ Brown's at the door after June 1st.
Yes, so that's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on as we approach the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece of news that just broke today: Jackson Smith and Jigba, my guy that I drafted so many years ago and traded away for peanuts, just signed the biggest wide receiver contract in NFL history, averaging $42 million a year in annual value over 4 years. Coming off a great season, you had to expect this was going to be what happens, especially when the cap jumped another $21 million, $22 million for every team. So this is probably part of the reason why they couldn't bring back Kenneth Walker. They knew they had to look after some more integral pieces, and offensive player of the year is someone you probably have to invest into.
Yeah, really interesting contract in a couple of ways. It's interesting. He's only 24. Like, he's very, very young. So to be getting this big of a payday this young for a wide receiver is kind of market shifting. It'll be interesting to see if other teams start paying their young stars more earlier, just for the security of locking them down and having them under team control as well, right? Because if the cap does continue going up, and he continues to perform the way that he is, we could be looking at this as a very good deal sometime,
Absolutely.
3-4 years from now, right?
Well, so look at what the difference is between last year and this year. Jamar Chase is making 40. I think in the it might have been the season before, but Justin Jefferson is only making 35, and that was 2 years ago. So
insane.
The absolute jumps that these receivers are getting, when you are one of the guys, you get treated like one of the guys. And very happy for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Obviously earned it. It'll be curious to see what happens this season without the Kubiak system, new offensive coordinator, no Kenneth Walker, no running game really to speak of right now with Charbonnet coming off the ACL. So I think it's inevitable that this Seahawks offense takes a step back, but I don't think there's any question that he will be a centerpiece of this offense as we move into dynasty startup drafts, which is only a couple months away for us.
Yeah, for sure. Who loves this contract a lot?
Puka Nacua.
Yeah, he is a very big fan of this contract because he is going to get paid.
At least this, right? At least. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Is this his third offseason? Because he might be eligible for an extension if they wanted to get it done early. I think it might be. Is this his third offseason? I think it is.
I think so.
So
we'll see where that goes. But he's gonna get his. That's for sure. And this is the floor, right? $42 million for JSN. That's the benchmark. Every wide receiver is going to be comparing themselves against him. So
Puka Nacua watch starts today, everybody.
Okay,
so let's get into what is obviously the biggest piece of news that's broken over the past week, which is the Jalen Waddle trade. And I'm sure if anyone's watching our podcast, they've watched other podcasts or listened to other podcasts talk about the ramifications of this trade. So we're not going to go super deep on this, but what's your initial? Okay, let's do both sides. Let's figure out how we feel about Miami and how we feel about Denver when we break this down.
Yeah, I'm going to leave off Miami just a little bit because I know we're going to be talking about them kind of in depth later on in the divisional breakdown too. So I'll start with the Broncos' perspective of this, which is chips pushed in, and this is a really good move for that, right? Like, they could have easily sat on what they had at wide receiver with, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin was there, Marvin Mims. Like, they had a good wide receiver, but this is a huge upgrade to it. Like, this definitely gives them a lot more in the way of weapons. It really shores up that room. I love it for them. Now, if I'm a fantasy owner or dynasty owner and I own a Marvin Mims, for instance, I don't like it very much. But hey, if I own Jalen Waddle, I'm very happy about this. I think this is going to pay off dividends for the Broncos as a team, and I think this is going to be really good for Jalen Waddle if you're a fantasy owner of his as well.
I agree. I think this like situationally, this is a better place to be for Jalen Waddle. They're going to be able to work that play action game. They're going to work him on crossers. They're going to be able to work the bootleg game and get him downfield. He really brings something that this wide receiver group doesn't have, which is that breakneck speed, right?
Yeah.
The Troy Franklins, the Cortland Suttons, they are ball winners downfield. They do a very good job of that. Marvin Mims, more of a gadget guy. Pat Bryant, power slot. So to have a guy that you can put, and the great thing is with Sean Payton is he does like having those X receivers types. So he's got Pat Bryant, he's got Cortland Sutton, he's got um, Troy Franklin potentially. I want to ask you a question about this later, but I think that the fact that they have a guy that they can put on the line of scrimmage, you allow Jalen Waddle to be creative and stay off the line and just
Mm-hmm.
get a head full of steam and just burn downfield.
Yeah.
And the Broncos, I believe, like they stay committed to the run game. I think it's a good marriage between Bo Nix's game and Jalen Waddle's skill set. This is a move to your point that you make when you think you are one or two plays away from the Super Bowl, which is
Yeah.
really what they were, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
exactly. 100% they were. I think another factor for this too, just thinking from the perspective if you're a Waddle owner in any of your leagues, in Florida, he was never like in Miami, he was never the guy. He was always behind, another wide receiver, another running back. He was a piece there. He wasn't the guy there. And well, I mean, there are other pieces in Denver too, with the capital that they've just put in towards getting him. He's the guy there. Like he's the guy that they spent the big bucks to bring in. They're going to be scheming this offense around making sure that Waddle gets the ball. And they take advantage of his skill set and his talent, which we saw in Miami, which he put on display. And his success was, a factor of how talented he is and his ability as well, despite not being, necessarily the guy there. I think he's gonna have a very good season this year.
I guess so. Don't disagree with anything you said there. I think he's number one in that group of a bunch of B pluses. He's an A.
Yeah.
So he'll take over as primary. Sean Payton has this fucking tendency where he likes to distribute things and mix things up and everyone gets a touch and all that stuff. Do you think it may not be until the draft or maybe after the draft, but do you foresee like a Troy Franklin or a Marvin Mims as like trade worthy? Like could the Denver Broncos get something for one of those guys that might be worth shipping it out just to even out the room? Because they were getting really high on Pat Bryant towards the end of the season. Cortland Sutton's not going anywhere. They just re-signed him.
Yeah.
And then you have Jalen Waddle.
I see where our head's at there. I just thinking about what they're trying to do. They're trying to get themselves over the hump for a championship, right? And I don't think you want to be trading away your depth too easily if you're in that position. Now, if that's what you need to do to address a need somewhere else, maybe you do now think about it, or you look at that as a possibility. But I wouldn't be racing to go do that if I'm them. I don't think. We'll see where they're at, but
I'm honestly shocked that the Broncos didn't trade Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin instead of that third round pick to the Miami Dolphins, who need receivers now.
So we'll talk about Miami.
They need cheap receivers. So
yeah,
it's a strange situation for Miami. A huge A plus for the Broncos to pull it off. So nothing to do but wait and see how they decide to deploy him now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I'm excited to see. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, his draft stock was probably, I want to say like fourth or fifth, maybe sixth round. Does this boost him at all in dynasty startups? Like, would you put him up into the third? Would you put him? Like, where would you feel comfortable taking Jalen Waddle these days?
That's a great question. Let me pull up my rankings here. Actually,
sure.
We'll have a peek.
I think personally, he still falls into that late fourth round just because of the target competition and the composition of that offense. I even if he's the 1A, he feels like he almost feels like a Christian Watson of Green Bay
Yeah.
kind of 1A.
I was going to say, I think a good comparable for him is like Devonta Smith currently with the current composition
Okay.
of the Eagles. So we'll see what ends up happening with AJ Brown because
Yeah.
that would change the comparable there. But yeah, I think that's a good comparable there. Someone who's going to get his is going to put up some good points for you. But yeah, I'm looking at him in kind of that wide receiver 25-ish range. So
Your boom and bust kind of
yeah,
alpha type. Yeah.
and that is the kind of player that he is too,
Yeah.
right? Like
His whole
he
career.
is not going to be consistent for you on a week to week basis, but there's going to be a lot of weeks where if you're someone who can get him in a later round and he is a wide receiver 3, like somewhere in that kind of wide receiver 3 flex, depending on the setup of your league, he's going to be just an absolute league winner for you.
I think it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out. And again, we have our Dynasty Startup Draft in a couple months. But for a guy that is coming off a bad season, but only 2 or 3 years ago, we saw him be a wide receiver 1 or high end wide receiver 2. For him, he will fall to a value, I think. And it's going to be a matter of like when you're ready to pull the trigger. I think when you are sitting there, and I don't have rankings in front of me, but if we're looking in the fourth round and he's there, I think you pull the trigger on him before you pull a trigger on like a dead zone running back, right? Or a dead zone tight end, or like I think he's going to be a high. Whoever decides to be brave enough to take him in that fourth round, back into the third round now. Again, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just going off of like gut feeling. I think that will be a payoff, and he's going to have winning weeks. I think we know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He will win you some weeks. He will also not contribute some weeks, but he will.
He
win
might
you
be
some
minus
weeks.
2 points at some point. Like
maybe.
just ask my
Yeah.
wife.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Well,
Awesome.
he got me pretty far in a work league last year as well, a redraft work league, just with the injury situation in Miami. So maybe I have a little bit more faith than I should, but
maybe that maybe that high altitude training, helps him out with some of those like soft tissue injuries. He could be
maybe.
fine. He could be fine, or terrible. Well, who knows? It's fantasy
The
football.
point is, we'll know.
This whole exercise is a fool's game, but here we are.
It's
Okay,
true.
everybody. We're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna get back to our AFC East breakdown. Bam.
Oh man.
Did you see the U.S. football team, the U.S. flag football team, like demolish a bunch of NFLers?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that all the highlights from that were absolutely wild.
Yeah, it is a different sport. Like
It is
truly.
absolutely a different sport. One thing I will say is Tom Brady still that guy.
Oh my God, he could play tomorrow, man.
He could go out and play tomorrow. That
He
was
could.
absolutely wild. He's dodging tackles. He is just
Slip the
absolutely picking the corner in the end zone.
guy,
Like
fucking dart to the back of the end zone. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
that's why he's the goat.
That's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah, you could leave that in. That's good.
I think that's a good that's a good preamble to get into here. All right, good. Okay, we are back, everybody. Let's get into our AFC East breakdown. And for that, we are going to start with the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
They lost in the divisional round to the Denver Broncos. So once again, a strong showing, especially down the back end of the season. Josh Allen putting the team on his back with a bunch of nobodies at receiver. So what do they do this offseason? They trade a second-round pick for DJ Moore. They fire their head coach, who, in my opinion, did nothing wrong. He was doing the best that he could with the roster that was provided to him. That's my opinion. Curious about your opinion on that, Bobby. But they also signed veteran edge Bradley Chubb, and those are kind of the big moves so far. I think since that DJ Moore trade, they've kind of settle themselves down and they just want to kind of move into the draft and see what happens. So, what are your thoughts on this Bills offseason so far?
I mean, I really like the DJ Moore move. We talked about it the other week, and I really, really like that move. I really like the Bills. I like where they're at. I mean, you might not agree with this opinion because of who your favorite team is, but I think they could certainly take this division down, just off of the strength of Josh Allen being him, as we saw last year when he had nothing, and now he's actually got somebody to throw the ball to. So I like where they're at. I like how you have in the show notes new coach, same coach, because it does kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't think they needed anything different in terms of strategy. Having a new voice in the room can sometimes help a team. They just get sick of the voice that you've been hearing, or you need to hear the same message from somebody else for it to actually sink in. And maybe this is a little bit of that. Or upper management needed somebody to pin the blame on, so that's where it ended up falling. But I do like where they're at as a team, and I think they'll be a very competitive team this year.
And when you have the best player in the league, that's always going to be the case, I think. Like,
it's hard to not be when you have Josh Allen. That's all there is to it.
I mean, you and I can sit here and debate and rank between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes. Like, we could go in circles for a million years, but the fact is, in my opinion, his size, his athleticism, his arm, his decision making, the offense that he's in, the situation is all very good. And now, my point, I guess, one point you could say is that they did lose a guard on the offensive line, but I imagine they'll be looking to backfill that in some way. But losing one offensive lineman does not make Josh Allen any more or less the best player in the league, as far as I'm concerned. I agree with you. The DJ Moore trade, as we've discussed, makes this team better for this year. I think losing Sean McDermott, he was one of the most longest tenured coaches in the league in recent history, and I think you do lose something when you decide to fire that man, especially with the stories and the news that I hear coming from the background when it comes to Brandon Beane. This guy, he almost operates like a power hungry like student president, where it's like, no, you can't say that, or I'm going to do this, or like he's just very controlling that way. I feel again, I'm not there, I'm not in the building, but I feel like he managed up to the ownership and said, this guy's not getting it done, versus the head coach getting there first and saying, hey, he's drafting a really shitty draft class every fucking year. So, I guess on the flip side, the offense probably won't change all that much. The one question I wonder, Bobby, is like, does the offense change at all? Because I wonder if the Sean McDermott influence was like, let's be run heavy, let's limit the risk, let's kind of reel Josh Allen in a little bit, just so he's not that wild horse on every down. And that's worked for the past couple seasons. But now that Joe Brady's at the helm, does he just like let all the dogs of war loose?
Yeah, well, and it's funny you say that. This is just purely me speculating here. If you're looking at the structure of a team and you're looking at, who's calling the shots, who's having the big influence, right? You have a long-term tenured coach. That's going to be the guy, right? Yeah, everything's going to go through him, and he's going to really have his stamp on the team. You take that person out, other figures are going to have more influence, and one of those other figures is the quarterback too. I think Josh Allen is going to have an amount more say probably now than he has before in how things have run, just because there's been change, right? And if you are looking at this franchise and you are coming in and trying to figure out how an offense is going to run, who's going to be one of the people you're going to talk to about how do we run this offense? It's going to be your quarterback, who is who he is, right? And as we discussed, you said we could debate. I don't think we need to debate. he's that guy, right?
He has my vote.
I think we're going to see a little bit more of a look where, if Josh wants to run the ball, he can run the ball. If
He's
he
going.
wants to sling it, he can sling it. I think there's going to be a little bit more say coming from the quarterback position than maybe there was before. That's just me speculating. But
Okay.
that's something I'm intrigued to see how it shakes out.
Well, apparently, to your point, he was involved in all the head coach interviews. Like he was sitting in on them, so he had some say at some level, one way or another. I don't know if he probably wasn't asking any questions, but he was in the room
Yeah.
as these people were asking the questions of these head coaching candidates. Um, and I guess my
I mean, like in any profession, if you get a job, right, and you show up to your first day at work and one of the people who's on the hiring panel is sitting next to you, are you not going to talk to them about how you should do your job?
100%. And
Yeah.
my first impression, I think the day of when Joe Brady was hired as the head coach, maybe it was the day after, he was on the Pat McAfee show, and my impression of Joe Brady was he's kind of got like verbal diarrhea where he'll just continue to rant and like he has this like stream of consciousness kind of way of communicating, whereas I think Sean McDermott was more calculated and more direct in like how he was trying to communicate with the team and like had the vision. Joe Brady feels like he's going off of vibes and he's just there for like YOLO balls and everything else. That's the impression, and that's stupid of me to say because I know he's been the director of like a run heavy first offense, but I really do feel like he's without any constraints. I'll be curious to see how this offense decides to operate.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too.
Um, they signed Bradley Chubb as a veteran edge as they move towards a 3-4 defense, and they have the 26th pick, Bobby. Where are they going with the 26th pick?
I'd be adding to the defense too. I think looking for something to kind of bolster for that 3-4. Um, some sort of linebacker, perhaps, is what I'd be leaning towards.
Yep.
Someone to help solidify that pass rush and to kind of lock things down on defense.
Yep. If a Cassius Howell decides to not decides, but if Cassius Howell falls to this round or this area, I feel like he would be a good fit for this defense. If a Denzel Boston, who I've mentioned before, if he slides a little bit to the back end of the first round, you could go with a Denzel Boston to be that true X receiver, which they mistyped Keon Coleman as, if you
Mhm.
ask me. I don't know what they're doing messing around with a Curtis Samuel. What's his name? Oh my gosh, Canadian guy. Um, there's a couple receivers they don't need to be messing around with. You can put Keon Coleman in your slot position as a power slot. You can put Denzel Boston on the outside, and you can put or deploy your tight end types however you want. Like
Mhm.
they can be interchangeable, but they just have so many of these Curtis Samuel. And what's the other? Oh my gosh, it's killing me. I can't remember this guy's name. Anyhow, I think a defense would be good, or if a high end X receiver falls to the first back in the first round, I do like that as well, in my opinion. Let's get to the next team, and that's the New England Patriots. My New England Patriots,
Are
who
you thinking of Josh Palmer?
yes, thank you.
There you go.
Oh gosh, all he did was like destroy my Lauren Park Spartans for like 2 seasons in a row. Um, yeah, fun fact: he went to St. Rock High School here in Brampton and just north of Mississauga, and I think they put up like 50 on my Lauren Park Spartans a couple times.
Sounds
Anyhow,
sounds
what
like a future
sounds
NFL
like
player.
yeah, sounds like a future NFL player. Okay, New England Patriots.
Mhm.
Their big moves, of course, are signing Romeo Dobbs to that big contract in free agency, which I think slots him in as a starter for the Patriots. They signed Elijah Vera Tucker. He's a hit and miss product out of the guard position, so we'll see if we can get. I think what I heard about this is it's a very like performance based contract. Like it's all incentives on the fact that he plays rather than just like here's a bunch of money to be our guard.
Right.
So it incentivizes him to be on the field and actually perform. Otherwise, he's making like pennies on the dollar. So could be a savvy move there. They
Mhm.
sign. I mean, these are all like bozo signings. Like sign Austin Hooper. Who gives a care? I think the Patriots are a prime candidate for a rookie tight end being drafted, if not in the first round, then within the first 2 days, because it is a good tight end draft. And then they have the 31st pick. So
Mhm.
anything you want to talk about the New England Patriots here? Because I think it's just like steady as she goes. Trust the process.
Are they in on AJ Brown?
I think they are. I
Mhm.
think I think if wherever there's a rumor, I have to believe that there's at least some smoke. So as a Patriots fan, I think it's a perfect fit. It's the one thing they're missing. Like they are missing that go-to guy on any down, truly, and he's still a good deep threat. And
Mhm.
Drake May throws the deep ball better than anybody else. I I would be shocked if they don't have at least something in the works with the Eagles. The question is going to be price, right? Because for a player that's going to be turning 29 before the season, he showed some decline last year. I know people are going to say that, but I think he was just bored of the situation in Philadelphia.
Well,
He
I mean, he
was
was on the bench reading a book. I mean,
well,
you know.
I think he was so fed up with Jalen Hurts and his quarterback play, and then the play calling as the offensive coordinator was calling it. I think he was just fed up with the Philadelphia product and project. I think he finished as a top 12 fantasy wide receiver on a per game basis last year. And that's why I traded a first round pick for him in my keeper league because I think he still got it. If you're 29, you can produce till you're 31, 32. Even at like reduced levels, I think that's worth something. And it's going to be up to the Patriots and what they're willing to pay because I don't think anyone else has the cap space or the like capital to actually make this happen. I hear the Rams might be in on him. I'm like,
The Rams are in on.
how would the Rams be able to afford this guy? So
It's kind of like Las Vegas in the NHL, where anytime a big player is available, you hear rumors that Las Vegas is in on them, and you look at it and go, how could they possibly be? But it turns out they're just madmen who will do absolutely anything to get a player on their team. But
sure,
um, yeah, I get what you're saying with all that. I think the fit is there. I think they have the assets to make the deal happen. So yeah, I would strongly suspect that this is perhaps the landing spot for an AJ Brown.
yeah, and
If he's being,
I only wish that the trade would happen before the draft instead of June 1st, so that I knew my standing with him as a potential keeper slash with our dynasty startup coming up. Like
hmm,
he is going to be like one of the more drastic movers in any kind of draft format based on what happens in the next 3 months, and that's all I can really say about it, right?
yeah,
If
absolutely.
but if I was the Patriots and I say we have this cheap quarterback in a rookie contract, we just signed Dobbs who can be our Zed, our flexible type. We put AJ Brown at X. Then we've got Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams. Now we're cooking with some gasoline, like guys that can threaten all levels of the field with some speed, with some savvy. I would love it. I would love it. But
I would be pretty happy if I were you or any Patriots fan if that is how things shake out.
yeah,
Um, you guys have the 31st overall pick. What are
yeah.
you doing with it?
Okay, you get to ask me this time. Fair enough.
Yeah, well, I figured it's your team. You should have the lead
Yeah.
on this one.
Um, I've seen some mocks where they take a corner. I don't like that because we have two good corners. Um, in that range of the draft, at that range of the draft, like if you don't get AJ Brown, again, I keep bringing up Denzel Boston. But like Denzel Boston falling here would be a dream. Um, or you could start looking at no, you don't want that. If it's not receiver, then you could look at tight end potentially, like the Georgia tight end Delpit. He seems to be an absolute monster. Proper wide tight end that is on the line of scrimmage, kicking ass, and then also able to catch passes with some finesse. I would love something like that. Otherwise, you're looking at defense, and it's just best. pass rusher available since they lost a couple pieces on that defensive line. So
Yeah.
that's where I would go if I were them.
Yeah. And again, this is me showing my bias for defensive line, but I would be excited for the defensive line pick. That would be. Yeah, you could use that pass rushing elephant, whether it's an end or a linebacker.
And even, I mean, they have Milton Williams, they have Christian Barmore. Defensive tackle at the back end of the first would be nice too, but it is a good edge rushing class, so I think they would go edge before they go D tackle. But the good thing is they have some flexibility. They can do whatever they want when it comes to this 31st pick. I don't see them. I think they'll sit and they'll pick. I think they'll sit and they'll pick. I don't think they're going to move anywhere backwards or forwards or otherwise.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Let's get into the next team, which is the Miami Dolphins, who might as well be a dumpster fire as far as I'm concerned.
I like how you wrote roster on fire, and I had to highlight that in orange just because, literally just a fire.
It is a sad sight down in South Beach right now, where they've just traded away Waddle, which we've talked about, but now we can maybe get into the Miami side of things. They made a splash in free agency with one of the first big signings being Malik Willis, signing his $28 million a year contract for the next 2 years with the Dolphins, and then effectively took away all his weapons. It's really just him and Devon Achane on the offensive side of the ball right now. But they did get that 30th pick back from the Broncos in the first round. So they've got 2 firsts, and they have so many needs with the players they've lost, the players they've traded away. I don't know. I don't know how, man. They have, okay. What I will say is they have 7 picks in the first 100 picks, which is a good place to be, I think.
That's a good number of picks to have
in that range, which is good
in
a bad draft, quote unquote. But where do you want to start with this, Bobby? Like, we could really tackle this from any direction.
Yeah, there's a lot of directions. Well, let's start with the first question. Do they win a game this year?
I would say yes. I think they. Okay. I think they will win a game at least in Week 18.
All right. Week 18 win. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so they're winning a game. I think this could be one of the worst teams at the last while. Where we're thinking like the depths of the Lions when they were at their worst, kind of level of bad here potentially. So they'll certainly draft high again next year. So that'll be good for them.
Certainly the goal.
Yeah, I think like this is very clearly an obvious tear down, rebuild it through the draft.
We are at the foundation, my friend.
Like we have torn down.
There is no stubs to rip down to. This is the foundation, and I guess that's why I asked the question, like, why bother signing a Malik Willis? Like, why not? If you're going to go brass tacks and nothing, just roll with Quinn and Ewers. Like, why are you? I guess. You know what? I'll just throw it over to you. What are your thoughts on this whole experiment with Malik Willis?
So, again, I'm a hockey guy. I'm going to make an NHL comparable. Very famously, the Edmonton Oilers drafted first overall an unconscionable number of times in the NHL there in a period during the kind of 2010s, right? I'm talking guys like Taylor Hall, Nail Yakupov, et cetera, right? And part of the problem that the Oilers ran into was that they had torn down to bare nothing so much that they had no shield for those players. And these high draft picks that they brought in were just thrown to the wolves, right? The NFL is a little bit different with that, in that these players are not coming in being drafted at 18 as they are in the NHL. They're older, they're more mature. The difference between, the OHL or whatever league that these 18-year-old hockey players are playing in the NHL versus the difference between NCAA and NFL, it's not as big of a gulf. So it's easier for players to transition in the NFL. But still, I don't think you want to be just completely going down to the bare nothing and just throwing a bunch of fresh draft picks into the mix here. So signing Malik Willis gives you a shield, gives you a buffer. And in terms of his timeline, he's not too old yet where they couldn't become good within his window. So I think that's why you do that, is that it gives you a shield and it could work out. Like they could rebuild this thing through the draft over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. And suddenly now you're good within the Malik Willis time frame.
Yeah.
But that's a big ask.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think you would have to hope they had the decency to inform him that they were looking at this as part of this is the plan.
Right.
And if you still want to come here, you can sign here. We'll be happy to have you. But
Mhm.
here is the plan. So I would hope they would have the decency to do that. Because
I would hope they did.
But if they didn't,
Mhm.
you just gave a guy his second contract, which is not even probably the maximum that he was offered, because he wanted to come with your coaching staff and your general manager to a place that he wanted to go, and he is set up for failure, right?
Mhm.
It's a contract that's set up so that if he does not do well this year and the Miami Dolphins do not do well this year, they can release him, because what's another 10 to 15 million dollars in dead cap when you already have another 50 to spend on Tua next year, right? So unfortunately, he has, for his own sake, he has to outperform his contract.
Yeah.
And if he wants to be a starter in Miami into the future.
Now,
Otherwise,
having said that, he needs to outperform what is expected of him in this situation, which is nothing, right? Every other team around the league and Miami themselves, hopefully, if they're rational about this, should know where they're at and should know what the expectations are, which is 0, right? So
that's fair.
we'll see if he can do that, because the bar's on the floor,
100%.
right? If
100%.
he can show some pop, if he can show some talent, then that's all we're really looking for. We're looking for some glimpses. If you're a Miami fan this year, I think you're hoping to see some flashes of potential, and you should be happy with that, because that's probably all you're getting.
And with his rushing upside, I think he does have fantasy relevance. I think he could potentially walk into a New York Jets game and win 2 games by himself, right? Like, if we're being honest.
We're going to talk about another really bad team here in a second.
Talking about bad.
Yeah.
No, so let's get into the Jets, but first, Dolphins have the 11th and 30th picks. If you are the Dolphins, Bobby, where are you going with those picks?
I think this is probably one of the most confident I've been in where I'm going with this picks. For that 11th pick, I'm going to hopefully get somebody for the offensive line, just to shore up and provide some protection. And just in terms of like time frame and building, if we're building this thing through the draft, you might as well go from the lines out and shore up that offensive line. So I'm going with a tackle, a guard, something along those lines with that 11th pick. And then with the second first round pick, I want a wide receiver. I want somebody for Malik Willis to throw the ball to. So that wide receiver you've mentioned a few times so far today.
Jordan Tyson?
Denzel Boston.
Okay, yeah.
Denzel Boston. I think they're very happy if they can land him at 30th.
Okay. Let me pitch something to you.
All
right. I am the Miami Dolphins. We're not playing for this year.
No.
But if I draft Jordan Tyson at 11, who was originally thought to be the number 1 receiver in this draft class, but was not able to perform at the Senior Bowl, the Combine, and now is not able to perform at his pro day because of this lingering hamstring. You draft him at 11. And then Gerard McCoy. A lot of people thought he was the number 1 corner going into this draft, but is coming off a knee injury where he may not be able to perform at his pro day. This is just pie in the sky. You take 2 players at these draft spots where they might realistically fall to. And you don't even have to play them this year. They
That's
can,
so true.
they can just rehab and get ready for 2027. And now all of a sudden, next year when you have all this extra draft capital and you're probably drafting high or what, however it ends up shaking,
Probably made some more trades between now and then too.
probably.
Like I don't. Let's talk about Devon Achane for a second here.
I
Like, how long is he for this team?
This year, in my
This
opinion,
year at most?
I
Like,
I guess I heard an argument today from the Athletic that if they wanted to bring him back, he would not be as expensive as your Kenneth Walker types because he's not touching the ball in the run game as much as a Kenneth Walker potentially could,
mhm.
and he has some injury history, so you're probably getting him for 12 to 13 million bucks rather than the 15 to 16. Regardless, like you could sign him back if you wanted to, but I would he's I'm happy you brought him up because I was honestly going to ask you like if you thought he was going to get traded before before the draft.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Like, they seem to be trading bloody everybody out of there.
Yeah,
I think they hang on to him for the year, but he is certainly somebody who could go in season at the trade deadline, or could be moved. Like, I don't see him playing there after this year. I see them getting rid of him.
yeah,
I
I
guess this makes sense to hang on to a running back if you're doing this kind of a tear down. The windows are not the same,
exactly.
and you could probably get an amount for him. That's the other thing. He's a very good running back.
High second rounder.
Yeah, he has shown the speed and the ability and pass catching and all that. Like, yeah, you can get a high second rounder for him.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's speed run through the Jets because
Oh,
who the
yeah.
fuck
I was gonna
cares?
say, do we have to talk about the Jets?
Um, they trade a seventh round pick for Geno Smith. They trade for Devondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson. I think there was some extra pick swaps in there. They franchise tag Brees Hall, much to his dismay, and they have a second and
Get me
16.
out of here.
Honestly, I feel for that man. And then they have the second pick overall and the 16th pick.
Mhm.
So anything you want to talk about here, Bobby? That's like give our Jets fans a glimmer of hope. Like what do they want to accomplish this season?
Um, what would give Jets fans a glimmer of hope? My God, that's a really tough question.
It's a tough
One
ask.
of my really good friends at work is a Jets fan, and I have to always restrain myself from sending him Jets memes
Mm,
because he receives them from so many people, and I have pity for his sanity.
you don't want to pile on.
I don't need to be piling on at this point. I will also acknowledge that Geno Smith is maybe the best quarterback that the Jets have had since
Geno
Geno Smith.
Smith. That's the like nothing like sums up the Jets better than that as far as I'm concerned.
It's just straight up cruel. Like,
Yeah.
how could they do this to their fans? Like,
Oh lordy. Ah man.
yeah,
Okay,
I,
let me take over just for a sec to
yeah, go for it, go for it.
try and paint a picture here. Geno Smith provides competent quarterback play behind a good offensive line, and it's 50% to 70% better than what Justin Fields was giving you last year. And you're drafting in the top three, top four next year. Even with, the funny thing is with Aaron Glenn being a defensive coach, it was the defense that really underperformed last year,
Mhm.
and then they shipped out some of their best pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Sauce Gardner, Quincy Williams. They just traded away Jermaine Johnson to get Devondre Sweat, who is
Yeah,
certainly a run clogger in his own right. But like I guess you have to hope that Geno Smith provides competent quarterback play so you can actually evaluate Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Mason Taylor. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up taking a receiver in the first round with one of their two picks.
yeah,
And then Brees Hall has a chance to really shine in an offense that's not an absolute dumpster fire so that he can get out of Dodge next year off the tag.
get me out of here.
And then you have to hope the defense decides to show up. The defense as far as I'm concerned, the defense quit on the team as of week 5 last year.
Yeah.
Like it was non-existent. They're the first team in ever to not record an interception throughout the season. It was piss poor bad. So your defense has to go from 32nd to 25th, and your offense has to go from 32nd to 28th. Like do that, and you win 2 games, and you're drafting 1 or 2. Like that has to be your goal as a franchise
Yeah.
over the course of the next year.
That one of those games will be against the Miami Dolphins, who will also
Exactly.
be E once, and thus we will see the one win for the Jets and the one win for the Dolphins.
Yeah. I guess as a last place finisher, you get to face a fourth place schedule. So I think they face 1 or 2 other like bottom tier teams. But like again, like they're not better than some of these other teams that are at
No,
that bottom. Like, are they gonna? Would the Jets beat the Browns? Probably not.
probably not.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Like
Um, what are we doing with these draft picks?
second overall, I do like the chalk pick of Arvell Reese.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Arvil Reese is the spot there too. Yeah.
so Arvell Reese, second overall, gives you linebacker edge potential. You put him at edge, give him every chance to succeed at edge, and if you can't do it there, then you put him off ball. Um, at 16, I don't like the idea of them taking a quarterback. Do not take Ty Simpson at 16. It's not worth it. You have so many other holes. You take the best. At 16,
I
you
would
could
go. I would go wide receiver.
wide receiver. Yeah, yeah. Like you look at Makai Lemon, or you look at um, a Casey Concepcion. Like whoever's left from that top tier, and we could get into that as we get closer to the draft of our tiers of receivers. But I do like the idea of Makai Lemon to like put beside Garrett Wilson. You could put Garrett Wilson on the outside. Makai Lemon works out of the slot. You got Mason Taylor. You got Brees Hall. Adonai Mitchell at X. You can make a stew. You can make a stew out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just reading the thread there with our buddies
Yeah,
there who
yeah.
are looking for us. By way of wrapping up, can I give one glimmer of hope for Jets fans? I have it. I found the glimmer
Please,
of hope.
please.
MetLife Stadium needs to put in grass for the FIFA World Cup. So there's your glimmer of hope. Now the grass is going to go away after the World Cup, but for at least a year, they're not going to be playing on turf.
How about that?
How
There you go.
about that?
There you go, Jets fans. Okay, everybody. That's going to do it for us. Great episode. Thank you, Bobby, so much for hopping on. Great conversation as always. And looking forward to next episode as we continue to get through our divisional series. Um, yeah, like I always ask, if you made it this far, you may as well like and subscribe because we're going to be doing this all off season long and then ramping up as we get closer to the season proper. So like and subscribe, come along for the journey, crack a beer with us, and we'll have a good time as we discuss the great sport that is football. Bobby, I'll be talking to you in about 2 minutes.
Sounds
Hey,
great.
appreciate it as always, and thanks everybody. Peace.
Cheers.